Can you hear me, folks? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Is this too loud or no? Okay. First of all, I want to start by saying that I'm proud that our students are concerned enough about faculty, staff, and their campus to be out here today to give us a message. So good for you guys. And before I actually start my presentation, which I will read because I want to make certain that you hear everything that I've said, I want to tell you I know how difficult this is. I've said this before, and I'll just say it one time more. When I was at Arizona State University West, thank you, the president at the main campus decided that there should be cuts at the West campus, and we experienced those cuts, and they were devastating. And it's difficult, if it's your position, to understand that it may not be obviously you, but it's the position. But I understand how painful that is. So today what I'd like to do is walk the university campus and our community constituents through the process the campus as a whole engaged in regarding reducing the $3.3 million deficit we are predicting for the FY15 year. Administrators, faculty, staff, and students all have a fiduciary responsibility to present a balanced budget to the Board of Governors every year. As well, we must project our budgets into the future, utilizing historical trends and as close to appropriate assumptions as possible to determine enrollment growth or decline, which constitutes the university's largest influx of dollars into the education and general fund from the state of Colorado. As is the case with all four-year comprehensive regionals across the country and within the state of Colorado, universities align expenditures with projected revenues tied to enrollment. For the fiscal year 15, which begins fall 2014, the institution anticipates a deficit of $3.3 million. What has caused us to change our assumptions and anticipate a deficit? $2.5 million would have been available had the university imposed yet another 9% increase in tuition for this fiscal year, and the lack of that imposition will affect the budget for FY15. The Board of Governors, faculty, staff, and most importantly, our students last year recommended a 0% increase in tuition for FY14. So that is a loss of $2.5 million, and that will roll forward year after year. $850,000 would have been available if the tuition increase for FY15 had been a 9% increase, which we had projected, instead of the maximum 6%, which the governor recently imposed. And we support that because we don't want our students to have more debt, but it also affects our bottom line. $2.5 million would be available if enrollment growth were to increase by the 8.5% as projected in 2012, before the economy really bounded back. We cannot now, in good conscience really, assume that that number will hold. So we're going with a flat enrollment for the fall of 2014, and we project a loss of $2.5 million because of that pullback. $1 million would be available if we had not given raises to our deserving faculty and staff, which we really believe they deserved in 2012 when enrollments peaked. We didn't anticipate the economy bounding back, and we probably would have done it anyway. Students and faculty and staff are the heart of the institution. So The total projected deficit for FY15, because these roll over, is $6.8 million, not unlike what many other institutions are experiencing. And as I've said, if you just put in Google university budget cuts, you will read story after story after story like ours. Therefore, the university must make cuts of $3 million, while the CSU system has agreed to cover the remaining amount, as well as appropriating $3 million to upgrade our aging IT infrastructure. I would like to thank all of our colleagues who participated in this very difficult and painful process of administering cuts. In October 2012, CSU Pueblo's Academic Senate appointed their University Budget Board, which has meant continually since that point in time, to evaluate all academic programs for efficiencies and to determine if any redundancies on campus could be eliminated to save dollars. In April of 2013, the UBB completed that evaluation and made short-term and long-term recommendations to me and the Cabinet. The cost-saving measures used to reduce the projected $3.3 million deficit includes many, if not most, of those recommendations. I would also like to thank the co-chairs of the Academic Senate, the chair of the American Association of University Professors, AAUP, the chair of the University Budget Board, and the chair of the Chairs Council. As representatives of the faculty and staff, they have provided me with recommendations regarding the deficit. And I will say that faculty themselves have emailed me their thoughts and recommendations for cuts. And you would be surprised, but you will soon find out how many of these have overlapped. In an attempt to keep the integrity of academic programs and serve our students, the following measures will be taken to reduce the FY 2015 projected deficit. We do not have more time to make these cuts, and I will remind everyone that if a position is eliminated, you will remain in that position until June 30th, 2014. These recommendations, again, were given to me by representatives for the entire campus. Faculty will teach 12 credit hours per semester. Reduction in loads for administrative duties and grant opportunities will be taken into consideration. Operating dollars at the university will be cut by $400,000 after consultation with all units. 19 positions, which I have held vacant since I arrived here, will be eliminated. Those are vacant positions. 22 filled positions will be eliminated. These positions include one-year letters of appointment, retirements, and administrators. Neither tenure track nor tenured faculty will be cut. Restructuring of colleges will be considered with input from the faculty, staff, and students. We will continue to make arguments to the county, the city, the system, legislators, and DHE to recognize the fact that CSU Pueblo is an HSI and deserving of support beyond that currently awarded, in the hope that cuts can be curtailed. And in fact, we just recently found out that the Joint Budget Committee of the legislature is seriously considering helping us with this deficit by offering us monies for buyouts. We don't have that finalized yet, but we have been working with them, and that will help us a great deal. The timeline for informing faculty and administrative professionals that their positions have been eliminated will occur between January 20th, 2014 and January 31st, 2014. Those administrative professionals whose positions have been eliminated will be informed by their direct supervisor, human resources, and will receive a letter of termination in a face-to-face meeting. All staff whose positions are eliminated will remain in their current positions through June 30th, 2014, receiving occupational counseling, guidance in refining resumes, and help in finding new positions. A web page named Budget Central has been constructed, and we will post past and current communications from me, the Chancellor, the System Office, and it will go live today. Once all employees have been informed that their positions have been eliminated, the university will post a detailed account of the savings incurred by cost-saving measures, which positions were eliminated, both vacant and filled, and the university business plan and rationale for eliminating those positions in specific areas. So you will receive the information that I know that you want. What I'd like to do now, before answering questions, is to ask our HR Director, Ralph Jacobs, to come up and give an overview for classified staff as to how the process works for them. Thank you.
Okay, this will be of interest primarily to classified employees, but if anybody has any questions later, I'll be happy to answer them. There have been a lot of changes in the rules that govern layoffs. Can you hear me okay? Okay. That might help a bit. As I said, there have been significant changes in the rules that govern the layoff of classified employees, and that these arose out of the laws that have been passed in the last 2 years. The portion of the rules actually require that the university go through the very process we just went through, which is a very detailed analysis of the current operations and how the university can best reduce its expenditures in a way that will minimize the negative impact on its continuing operations. Once that's done, then the university has to develop a layoff plan for classified employees. The layoff plan has to be published, has to be posted on the website, has to be published for a period of 55 working days. 55 calendar days. After the layoff plan has been posted for 10 days, 10 calendar days, the university can start to do layoff notices. Classified employees get a minimum of 45 days notice before a layoff can be implemented. So there's quite a bit of notice, and since these layoffs are not going to happen actually until the end of June, we'll have plenty of time to comply with the minimum posting requirements. As Dr. DeMar mentioned, the layoffs will be hand-delivered to employees who are affected, and there will be an opportunity for employees to offer suggestions or comments about the layoff process and about the whole layoff plan. The communication is going to remain open, but we do have to move ahead with a plan in order to actually carry it out. Some classified employees will have retention rights. And retention rights are defined in the state personnel rules as a person who has achieved 75 points. The points are the sum of age and years of experience, years of work in a para employer. And para employers are not limited to CSU Pueblo. Para employers include a variety of other public sector employers, including school districts. So it also includes purchase time. So in order for us to find out who has 75 points, we will have to go to para, and they will have to tell us, because we don't know necessarily if you've purchased time, and we don't know necessarily if you've worked for another para employer. So we will go to para, and we will find out from them whether an individual who might have retention points actually does. The only people who can displace another certified employee is an employee with retention rights. And I should also say that unless you've accumulated those 75 points prior to January 1st, 2013, you don't have them. That's a consequence of the recent legislation. So if you've got the 75 points by January 1st, 2013, you have retention. If you don't have it by that date, you don't have retention. We will also have to do a layoff ranking for employees who are in positions that may be displaced by a person with retention rights. And we will be placing on the website, and we'll be including in the layoff plan that will also be posted, the ranking formula that will be used to determine each affected employee's individual ranking within the classification of positions that are affected. So it's a very limited number of individuals who will have retention, and a very limited number of individuals who will be in need of a ranking formula. But it's out there for you to see, or will be shortly. And I encourage you to look at it. We have been consulting with DPA, with PERA, with our own attorneys, and with the Attorney General's office in preparing this plan. So we've been very, very careful in our effort to comply with the rules that govern this process. It's been a very long and careful process of reviewing. We've had a lot of questions. As I said, the law has changed. It's changed a lot in the last 2 years, and so we're dealing with a relatively new set of requirements. The Human Resources Department will be available to help classified employees who have been laid off and or those who have been displaced as a consequence of someone else's layoff. And we will be putting a great deal of information on Budget Central. That's where most of the information is going to be. And a lot of it is going to be in the form of links to other organizations that can be helpful to you. But also, if you just want to come in and talk, if you want us to help you develop a plan for what you're going to do after June, we'll do our best to help you there. We'll make sure you know what resources are available to you between now and June 30th and subsequently. But that's going to be done on an individual basis because everybody's circumstances are different. Just feel comfortable about coming in and talking to us about your situation. We do want to do the best we can for you, and we'll certainly try. If you want to appeal, if you want a hearing in front of the State Personnel Board on your layoff, you can. It's a mandatory requirement that you be granted one. The details about how you go about doing that will also be available through a link, because I'm not going to try to explain the rules of an appeal to the Civil Service Board in this situation. So you can go to the website, and the website will be accessible to you through Budget Central. But if you just want to come in and talk to us about it, about how to get that information, we'll be happy to do that for you. That's it.
So we're going to take questions now, and everyone has 2.5 minutes, and Cora will be timing that to present their question, and we will respond to the questions. We can have different folks come up if they have more expertise than others of us. I do want to answer some questions, and then Ralph will do the same, that were sent to me by the Administrative Professional Council staff. Are positions at risk for spring 14 if enrollment is below prediction? Luckily, enrollment is not below prediction for this spring, so there will be no layoffs in regard to enrollment drops. What is the time frame for notifications for those employees who have positions that will be eliminated? And again, we just discussed that, and as I said and Ralph said, everyone will remain in their positions until June 30th, 2014. How will the notification process take place? We answered that. How will campus know about all the positions eliminated? As I said, we will put up on our Budget Central website every position that has been eliminated. Good question. Specifically, how will the office affected proceed without that person? Who will resume the function of that position? Everyone who gave a recommendation had to say how the duties of that individual whose position was eliminated will be assumed. And we will have that business plan for you on the website, and your direct supervisor will talk to you about how those duties will be distributed. Will any services be provided by the university or the system? And as we've said, mental health, counseling, building, revamping your resume, job search services, etc. Yes. How will Cabinet work to ensure that this type of financial situation will not happen again in the future? I cannot guarantee you that. We will do our best to offer the most accurate projections, as I said, based on historical trends. We are going to work very hard to have a contingency. One of the issues that we have at the university is that we have no contingency funds. We should have at least $1 million to $2 million here on our campus in reserves that we can rely on, as well as participating in a system which does fill holes for us from time to time. So the contingency system is the best that we have at this point. So that will take a year or two. We will need to see enrollment growth, but we will make certain that in the future we do have contingency funds. Will people be held accountable for declines in enrollment, drops in retention, or mistakes, omissions in the budgeting process? Everyone is held accountable, has to have an evaluation every year, and we will continue to do so. These are the questions that I was presented beforehand. Ralph, do you want to, did you get the list of questions that I sent you from Classified? They just sent it today. Do you have a copy? Okay. It's okay. Well, so we'll just take questions then. Okay, and if you would come to the microphone.
If I'm ever to sleep in good conscience again, there are things that must be said. And after much thought, because I feel responsibility is not equally shared through senior leadership, I will direct these comments to Chancellor Martin, through which and from which I assume the appropriate responsibility will emanate. This solution is no miracle. No one in this room is a hero. I will pat no one on the back, because a solution that mitigated the scope of the cuts proposed from the beginning existed from the very beginning. It was discovered through an engaged partnership of everyone in this room to better this university, and its discovery is merely the natural consequence of us doing our jobs. Perhaps the real miracle is that we ended up here with this solution at all. Because sadly, I never felt engaged as a partner in this process. I suspect leadership will take umbrage with that, but it is true because this entire conversation began with the number 50. That number framed this entire debate. That number terrorized this campus. A live grenade, the number 50, was thrown into the lives of these people, and we ran for cover, and we tried to protect each other. And some contemplated jumping on that grenade themselves. And whether that grenade went off or not, it is still an act of terrorism. And what a solution proves that cuts less than 50 positions on this campus is that we never needed that number in the first place. And to have framed this debate in those terms, to disenfranchise your faculty from a genuine, unfettered conversation free from the number 50 is an abject failure of leadership. And so my question, simply for lack of time, is this. In the spirit of experiential education, what is called the reflective moment, what have you learned? It's a sincere question for the Chancellor.
Well, I've learned that we need to communicate better. Because the number 50 is indeed positions. It's not people. You knew that. And we said that all along. We said all along. The number that we had to hit, given to us by the board as part of the budget process, was $3+ million in cuts. And the board is committed, based on our recommendation, in this fiscal year, so there are no cuts in this fiscal year, to $5.5 million from the system here, and to another $6 million next year. So all we ever said specifically, and it gets interpreted in many ways, is that to make that all work, given the amount of money that the board is willing to make available, $3+ million had to be cut. But as you well know, 82% of your budget's in people or in positions. And I congratulate this team, despite the fact you may have felt disenfranchised, I congratulate this team for doing it in a way that has the very minimal amount of damage, and hopefully will allow us not to have to continue to push additional costs and other outcomes back on students through higher tuition. I think the administration ought to be congratulated for being the only institution in the state last year to not increase tuition. So that's my response.
Tamara?
Thank you.
Or is that, I can't
No,
see
it
that.
is. It's Tamara. Thank you. My question is for Ralph, specifically. You spoke a little bit about the wellness checks and that sort of thing that would be available to staff and faculty. What sort of post-employment compensation will there be for the classified employees?
I don't think I understood the last part of
Per
that question.
legislation, there has to be post-employment compensation for classified employees. What sort of plan do you have in place for that?
The rules, as I read them, require us to give notification to employees. And we are so early. These layoffs don't happen until June 30th. So what we do have an obligation to do is if we were to give an immediate notice to a classified employee and they were to be laid off immediately, we would have to continue compensating them for 22 days. But that's not the case. We're going to continue compensating them for probably 160 days after notification by virtue of the fact that they'll still be employed. So after June 30th, there is no further compensation.
Yes.
I'm Margaret Herdick. I'm a graduate student in history. Very proud to be part of this community. And first, I just want to praise all the professors whom I've had the privilege of having. And I've attended many other universities and have several other degrees. So I have people to compare our resources here to other universities across the country. And bar none, we have the best professors in this university of any of the universities I've attended, and I went to Georgetown undergraduate. And also graduated summa cum laude from my law school, but I won't go there. Just wanted to ask about, we've heard so much about the cuts that were basically imposed, it seems, from bigger powers. We have a special resource here in Southern Colorado. We have little competition, obviously, for a four-year school in Southern Colorado. We've heard very little about what efforts have been made to increase enrollment by what I've been reading about in the paper is not very much. Yet we've had no plan to say we have to have these cuts unless we can increase enrollment by a certain number of students, which it seems to me from just my observations and my experience here would not be too difficult a task if we had a task force to do that. So I've heard nothing, and that's my question. What efforts have we made, as much as cutting budget efforts, to increase the enrollment in a fabulous university? Thank you.
We have the marketing task force and the enrollment management task force. They have done stellar work. A large group of them are right over here. We never had advertising at this university the way we have had it in the past 2 years. We have billboards that go up and down I-25 and 50. We advertise on the Rev, which we never did before. We are sending our recruiters out, and they work extremely hard, to all places all over this state as well as out of state. And in this state, our own student body have appointed individuals to accompany those recruiters. We have brought in more international students this year than the campus has ever had. We put monies aside to send recruiters to different countries, and particularly from Latin America, our numbers have increased greatly. I have given these presentations to you in my State of the University address and in other venues. We also put together for the first time our scholarship awards, our merit awards, that have 4 merit categories. Right now we have over 400 students who have applied and been approved for those awards, and over 200 of them are Hispanic students. These are the ways that you draw in students and engage in recruitment, and there's many other efforts that we've put forward. Margaret?
What are the can you give us specific numbers of the increases in the last, say, 12 months based on those efforts, and why the projections, why you continually say that the cuts are based on no increase if these efforts have been done? And that we have the feeling will, in fact, your efforts will produce results. So why do the cuts have to be made now? Why can't we see if your efforts are going to produce in the next 1 year and make things contingent on an increase in the enrollment, which you are saying right now should be happening based on all these efforts?
Well, we have to present a budget, a balanced budget, to the Board of Governors for this May and then obviously for July 1. We are doing everything that we can to increase enrollments. We have increased our retention by almost 4 percentage points this year, and our enrollments, we hope, will continue to increase through these efforts. But what you're not understanding, I don't believe, is what the nation is going through right now.
We are not the nation, ma'am. I'm awfully sorry. We have a special situation in southern Colorado, which all of us are willing to get behind and make sure happens. And I don't think that is a good answer, and it breaches the trust.
Well,
because
the faculty and the staff have all engaged in recruitment. It's not just one office. And the faculty did a stellar job this year, I thought, calling students, asking them to come in, to be advised, helping them with their finances. It's an entire effort by the university.
I think the problem, just one more comment and I'll leave all the projections for the cuts are based on flat enrollment. You've said it yourself.
No, I listed,
Yes,
no, I listed a number of issues that are causing the deficit, not just flat enrollment.
Okay, that was one of the principal ones. And I realize you're under the gun with your administrators, and you've done a fabulous job, and we appreciate it. But I think what the problem is, it's all about cuts and deficit and what the nation's going through. When we have resources and we have projections here which are not going to be the same as the nation. We have anyway.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Jacob Shade. I don't have a law degree, but I just got some kind of questions I was thinking about. I was wondering if the $3 million plus, I was wondering if those were standard per college. I'm not sure if you said that, and what the expenditure was for that and how it pertains to what made your decision, and if that's a common trend. And also, because of the major deficit that we're in, how have we approved to forego building all these new things and improving new sports and all these new activities?
And by the way, those are very good questions, and we have a fact sheet that you can pick up on the way out, and it will also answer many of those questions.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
So building new buildings, let's start with that question first. Those monies are appropriated through the legislature and the CDC, and they may not be used for salaries. A new academic building that's state-of-the-art, and one of the things that has been a complaint I've been informed of since the day I arrived here, will help in recruitment. That is really something that the literature shows. New buildings that are state-of-the-art will attract students. So those monies wouldn't be able to be used for salaries. I think that's your question.
So that's a completely different type of money situation? Is that
Yes.
what you're saying? Okay.
Yes.
And then, so the fact sheet you're talking about online, do you happen to know any of those, since this is such a big topic right now? Just thought you might.
But if you want to bring up I'd be happy to read them all.
Yeah. Should I read it?
No,
All right.
we can address some of those. You
Well,
have, Corp, would you bring me a copy of the fact sheet?
And are you going to read them? Or should I wait?
If you don't, they're available to everyone.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
It's okay. They're available to everyone. So.
Okay. And then, oh, man. I got to get back in line. All right.
Hello. I feel that my name isn't really that important. I'm just one of many of us that go to this school and still pay to go here. And my question was, you kept talking about a loss of money due to not increasing the rate of school, right, and tuition and things. From my understanding of the word loss, you have to first have acquired something to have lost it. And if you guys aren't increasing the amount of tuition that we have to pay, how can you be losing all these billions of dollars? I don't understand how that's possible to lose something you don't have at all.
It's because we didn't charge the tuition, so that is a loss.
Well, if you're not charging it, then the charge doesn't exist. So
We didn't want your tuition to increase. We are trying to help students not have such a burden in regard to debt.
I understand that, but you guys are saying it as if you're making it sound as if you're not raising the tuition, so we're losing all this money, when this money really isn't anywhere in the equation. The money isn't there because you're not raising the tuition, and it never was that high. So I don't understand how, like, you're just grabbing these numbers of, if we did increase, this is how much we would make, and then you're turning it around and saying we're losing it when you're not losing it because you never had it.
We had been approved for a 9% tuition increase for this year. The students, faculty, and staff voted not to impose that, but that had been put into the projections before I came, actually. So, see, it's put into the projections, so you have to consider that you will make a loss that way. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I just don't understand why that's a part of the process to put an amount of money into the equation that shouldn't be there. Is it that you're allowing that this increase could be a possibility? Is that why you're adding the money in, because the increase could be a possibility? Is that what it is?
Well, when the budgets were submitted in 2011 and 2012 for 2014 and 15, and we have to go 2 to 3 years out, that's why predicting the future is difficult, a 9% increase had already been placed in the budget projections. So yes, we talked about it. We decided that and this is going to happen more and more at different institutions, I can assure you.
But we're talking about our institution.
Yes. So we chose not to impose another 9% tuition on our students.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So if some of you guys don't know, my name is Vanessa Emerson. I'm the student body president here at Colorado State University of Pueblo. And I have been emailed and presented with some questions that students have, so I'll try to make my information brief. But one of the questions one of the students have that has emailed me is, what is the vision of CSU Pueblo, considering the situation at hand?
I'm not really sure, Vanessa, how you want me to answer that. We have had constituent meetings where we've described what our vision is. At this point, we are going to continue with enrollment, with marketing. We are hopeful to implement several new types of programs that we think will appeal to students, and we have faculty who have submitted those proposals. We have a strategic marketing plan and a strategic plan, which many of you were involved in, and we'll be presenting that to the board. And we have also sent that out and put it on email and asked for feedback. In fact, we had students in focus groups who participated in the creation of that strategic plan, and I'd be happy to mail it out to everyone.
And the other question I have, represented by one of the students that emailed me, asked, considering the cuts, how is that helping our HSI institution?
Cuts never help any institution, and as I told you, we went to the JBC and the legislature, and we did make the argument that because we are an HSI, we believe we need more dollars awarded to us in one form or another, and I really do believe they're listening.
And the last question presented to me by another student in an email was, what are we doing at CSU Pueblo to help recruit Hispanic-serving students at our institution?
Our institution has gone up by 4% since I've been here as we recruit Hispanic students. As you know yourself, Vanessa, the scholarships that we gave, as I just said, over 200 of those students are Hispanic students. So we've gone up 4 percentage points. Over 200 of our students for merit scholarships are Hispanic, and we will continue to work in that regard. We had a very good meeting this summer with Haku, and we brought the chancellor actually headed that up, and we had faculty. I've seen many of them out there. We also now have the Ballet Folklorico. That is a course that we offer with our high school students. So we very much try to bring them in through curriculum, as well as through merit scholarships, as well as through marketing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mine is actually just more of a clarification question. Before break happened, and even during break, there was an analysis by Howard Buncis done, and it was circulated to the faculty and staff, and I wanted to know if Chancellor Martin received that and what his thoughts were.
Yes, I did receive it, and I reviewed it, and I've been in this business a while, but I actually took the analysis provided by your own university budget board more seriously than I took an analysis by someone from Eastern Michigan. And so I read very carefully what the budget board provided last April and took that as a sign that this campus knew what it wanted to do and where it was. And let me make one final comment just about recruiting Hispanic students and others. How many people have attended Haku? How many attended this year? Haku. How many attended this year? I joined you there. I was there recruiting, as you know, for Pueblo in Chicago at Haku. How many people here are on the planning committee for next year's Haku conference in Denver? 2 of us. 2 of us. So we're all working to find students who can benefit from this great university. And you know, I was there. I've been there every year. I've been a strong member of that organization from the time that I was president of one of the largest Hispanic-serving institutions in the state with respect to the Hispanic percentage. New Mexico State University, 47%. We were asked the question about recruiting and about remaining in HSI. But I did indeed read the analysis from from the professor in Eastern Michigan.
Thank you.
And that's a very good question, and we will be providing an analysis of that analysis, and it will be on Budget Central. Good question.
What is the time? Like, when can we be expecting that? Monday.
Monday. It will be on Budget Central.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello. I just had one comment that I've found interesting about the rhetoric that we hear at this university, where, you know, there's all these big signs up before the semester saying, no tuition increase, blah, 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 yay, heck yeah. But then you raise up parking. Why does this university feel like they have to talk to us in some sort of little scheming way instead of just saying, hey guys, we got to raise money somewhere. So we're going to raise up the price of parking instead of saying no tuition increase, but we're going to nickel and dime you here. There should be some way to just talk to us like we're adults.
Well, we did do that. I had pizza with the president.
But the rhetoric,
I went to ASG.
The signs were not something that everybody can look at and say, I understand that. It's more of, say, you talk to this person, blah, 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 fine. But nobody else gets to hear this, and maybe you sent an email out. Okay.
We also had meetings, and
Sure.
the students were involved.
I just think it should be more open. You should just be able to tell people, have a big sign saying no tuition increase, but we're going to raise up the parking.
My name is Scott, and I actually had one question in regards to the budget. Certain people are saying that there's a surplus here and there's a deficit there. To get those questions answered, why can't the budget simply be displayed for the public?
It has been, and it will be on Budget Central as well.
Does that include what everyone makes?
Oh,
where
yeah.
everything
Yes.
comes from?
Yes.
Where's that located?
It's on the iDrive, which we can direct you to.
I mean for the public. I mean something that the public can access.
We'll make certain that it's on Budget Central so that anybody can go online on the President's webpage and see the budgets. You can also go, can I just tell you, you can go to the Board of Governors System Office website, and all budgets are listed there as well, completely.
And that includes everything for the university, from salaries to...
Salaries to operations to auxiliaries, yes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
My question was in regards to the fact that we had a projected budget out several years, so we knew that without the tuition increase we were going to reach a deficit that would have caused some type of problem. So in oversight of watching the budget, if we had these projections to begin with and we knew where we were to stand, and looking at no tuition increase, how did we make that decision, and who was in oversight of that decision, and how did we manage to make a decision that ultimately cost us this much money and people's jobs? Whose oversight was that? Because
they are projections out for 2 years, budgets are often adjusted. That's a basic budgeting approach. The students, faculty, staff have to approve the budget, and the Board of Governors does do the final approval.
Well, my question was, with all the accounting that we have here, with all the resources, the great resources that we have at the Hassan School of Business in terms of budgeting, accounting, and bookkeeping, how did we not see that if we did not raise tuition that we weren't going to have this deficit? How did we not see that and either adjust the budget for that? How did we not see that and either adjust the budget for it or allow the tuition increase to happen? Just a year out when we made this decision, there should have been some way to look at this projection and go, we need to adjust our budget or we need to raise tuition, but we didn't either.
No, we are adjusting our budget now, and that is what is causing some concern. We have to project budgets out by 2 years, and when variables occur that allow us to see where we are a year later, we have to make those adjustments. Can I have the next person, please, Cora?
My name is Sienna Bopst. I'm a music education major. If I get any closer to the mic, I think I might blow it. Sorry. I'm hearing a lot about retention, and I know it's a vicious circle when you don't have the funding and you don't have the facilities, and then the teachers start losing it, and then the students aren't getting the education, then they leave, lose retention, and then you have no funding. So when we don't have the facilities, I'm just wondering, when is the timeline for the music building, for example, to get their due? Because I keep hearing about the third time that we are renovating the Osceola University Center and the gigantic library that's just next door and the renovation to the rec center for the second time. And so I'm just curious when my building on the outskirts of the campus is going to get facilities, because it's expanding and contracting, because obviously the ground here expands and contracts because it's poor ground. I just want to know when the funding for that will come, and where will it come from when we have all of these other projects being created for retention and all of these, updated facilities for all of these other places, when we're losing retention, and I don't want to lose my program that I worked hard to keep. I've seen several students work very hard to keep that program. I've seen several teachers work very hard to keep that program. 3/4 of them are doctorate holding. Half of them are professionals. And so I want to know when we're going to get our due for just the music building. And I'm sorry if that's a little bit college prejudice, but just in particular, considering that my music building, I can hear the guy next door doing his warm-ups when I'm doing mine, and all of our computers crash every time we open up our production stuff, and so our comp tech class is defeated. So when are we going to get our just little bit of an update, except for the front doors, the shrubbery, and the carpet in Hoke Hall?
The faculty may put forward at any point in time a request, and it will go through facilities, and then it has to go through the CDC, the Capital Development Committee, and it will be put on a list. And as I said to one student, the psychology building's been on that list. How long now, Craig? 6 years? Okay, we're going on 6 years. So there's a long process that you have to go through. The OUC, the students voted on that 4 years ago to put aside their student fees and actually increase their student fees to remodel that building. So the student body voted on that. And then the library was, again, I wasn't here at the time, but there was a vote, and we take the buildings in terms of remodels, in terms of the severity of their needs. But that's a good question.
Well, and for me, prospectively speaking, because we just lost about 10 students because of the facilities and the quality in the facilities and our ability to efficiently teach these students. And as an education major, there needs to be a revamp on the education situation, but that's another thing for another day. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I have a quick question. They say they're going to cut $3.3 million off the budget school, right? But there's also the rumor that those $3.3 million are going to the Denver University. So if our nation is like in an economic mess, why is that money being cut from here and be giving to another university?
I'm not sure what other university are you talking about. Okay. You want to address that?
There is no money going to Denver.
Well, there has been that rumor, so I just want to clarify.
Well, that's a rumor. That campus, if it is a campus, will be owned in part by Pueblo. And that's in the minutes. I think Vanessa was involved in those conversations. I think, Frank, you were involved in those conversations. So I think your own people here can verify. First of all, we're not building anything. Everything that's going to be taught there will be taught by current faculty in free facilities. Engineering starts Tuesday at CH2M Hill, the biggest engineering firm in the country. Business starts next fall at Charles Schwab, and nursing starts next fall at Sky Ridge. Okay.
Okay, folks, please let all of us speak. Otherwise, I'll have to close the meeting. So can we let him finish, please? Thank you.
I will simply finish by saying this is a way to generate new revenue for Pueblo. And that was the tension all along. We met here in this town last February and had exactly that conversation. So this is a means by which this campus can have a branch campus that will also generate revenue. And anyone who wants to check the record can check it out. It's been well established. It's been done elsewhere in the country. So it was our attempt to help to generate additional credit hours for students who wouldn't otherwise come to Pueblo, but for which Pueblo could get the credit.
Check. Can you all hear me? All right. At the January 6th forum, it was said that over and over the system for years has been filling in holes for us. That was echoed by Jen Mullen at the December 20th informal faculty meeting. One question I have is, if that's really what was going on, why did it keep going on? Why weren't people who needed to be told, take care of it and get it taken care of? Jen's words were, the Board of Governors is sick of it, essentially, and it's over. It's over. That's what she was telling us. That's a pretty good paraphrase. Why is it over now? Well, that leads into, if in fact anybody that's tenure track, first or second year, I believe it was said in the January 6th meeting and then confirmed in an email that followed up by a lawyer from the university, that people in the first or second year of tenure track could be let go. Most of the hiring for tenure track faculty is done in a fall semester for the following fall. It's not to say that 100% of those positions are filled, but the searching that they do is much less in the spring. So there stand to possibly be people who could be employed not for 6 months, unemployed for 6 months, say, but a year. So finally, I'd like to close with a reflective type of question, and I don't know that it's necessary to answer that right now, but what does the university stand to lose? Pueblo, Southern Colorado, and even higher education in Colorado in general. What does the state in general stand to lose from these cuts? Thank you.
Hello. I'd just like to make a comment, and I do thank you all for taking the time out to answer our questions in various ways. The thing I would like to mention is I love coming to this university. It is a wonderful school to attend, but there's been something I've noticed which seems to be a disjointedness between the students, the staff, and even the, all the upper people. And I mean, for instance, I work at the Springs campus, and a lot of the students there have told me personally they don't feel as if they are a part of the university themselves. And I want to know, is there anything that's going to be done to help connect the students, the faculty, everyone together in making such decisions like this? I kind of felt like the email we all received was a little under the radar, to be honest. It was right after the semester ended, and it seemed like a giant shock. So in the future, will there be anything done to help everyone connect and talk about these issues as more of a whole? I apologize if I repeat myself a lot.
No, that's a very fair question. We have been working on a document that reviewed academic programs and efficiencies. We started October 2012, and Vanessa is now in that on that committee. It's called the University Budget Board. We've had very many constituent meetings. My student constituent meetings, not too many students come, so we try to alter them morning, afternoon, and night. We also have pizza with the president. So we really have done a great deal of outreach to include as many people as possible in the budget cuts.
In the future, would there be, I don't know, maybe you try something different in the future so it doesn't seem like such a shock, so many people aren't so horrified, because honestly, like a lot of people here, I'm honestly confused on why we have to essentially fire 50 people.
Well, again, I held 19 vacant positions, so we have those, but I don't know how else to explain that we are going to have a deficit next year, and so we will have to make some cuts.
I guess I do and don't understand, but I do appreciate you taking the time to listen to my question.
And the frequently asked questions that is on, those are on Budget Central. They may go into more depth for you.
Okay, I just know I kind of was horrified when I get an email on Christmas break saying 50 jobs are going to be lost. And
Yeah, that is not a good thing. I couldn't agree more. Again, we debated and we had faculty representation through our different groups. Should we give it out before the holiday or after? And we felt because we had to do this so quickly, and I agree with you, it's not a good thing to have budget cuts happen so quickly. But we debated and decided that people would want to know that that was coming.
okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, I am a master's student here at CSU Pueblo. And President DeMar, this is a question for you. I understand that the cuts that are being made are due to a budget deficit, correct?
Yes.
I think that's been made fairly apparent. Then I wonder why that decision was made due to the fact that others, including yourself, have stated that whatever system we have here on campus that tracks our budget is faulty and incorrect and inaccurate.
Yeah. We have known for a long time. In fact, I was told when I interviewed here that the AIS system in BFS is difficult to work with. It can sometimes give two different reports. We are moving to Quali, and that was an initiative I brought with me when I came 2 years ago. We will be putting it in parallel systems in March, and we'll be moving, going live in July. And yes, AIS is an old system, and like our IT infrastructure, it needs to be replaced.
That's a great comment about the future, but I don't feel that you answered my question about why we are deciding that we have a budget deficit currently when you are quoted in the Pueblo Chieftain on January 24th in Jeff Tucker's article when he sat in on the January 16th meeting, where you said with our system it's very difficult for us, it's very hard for us to pull historical data. Sometimes we pull a report and then 10 minutes later we pull the same report and it's different data. Therefore, how can you trust this data to say that we are currently in this deficit?
Because it is the data that we have. And we will have to continue to use the data that we can pull. It is difficult to pull historical data. This campus has had a problem with that for a long time.
Is there any way to gain more time until we can get an audit from the outside to make sure our budget numbers match and we can run it twice?
Yeah,
so we can know we're making this on correct numbers.
This campus, before I came, did an audit. There was an audit from the system, and then there was an audit from a very well-known Pueblo firm, and it verified what we thought was the case in the accounts receivable audit.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you? Okay. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
How are you guys doing? Doing good? I'm Isaiah Dees. I'm a freshman here, and I just wanted to say that the staff and the students are great. This is my first semester. I love it. But I had a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Do you believe that the leaders are responsible for any malfunctions and/or issues that occur under said leadership?
Yes.
Okay. With that being said, are there any plans in place to recognize or to reorganize the leadership of the campus and lack thereof?
Leadership is appointed by the Board of Governors, so they have the authority to do so. And by the way, I have reorganized leadership on the campus, and we have the fewest administrators in the history of the campus at this time. So some organization has gone on internally, but if you're talking about, for example, the president and cabinet, you have to go through the Board of Governors and have approval.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I am a student of history and of Chicano-Chicana studies. Mm-hmm. With this, I am concerned with the advancement of not only cultural minority people, but most importantly, the advancement of low-income people. And quite frankly, I'm not sure if either you, President DeMar, or Chancellor Martin are concerned with those. With this, you've continuously been saying that you will continue to increase enrollment through marketing. Clearly, marketing isn't working. With this, where do we go? Pueblo is a city filled with youth that don't necessarily understand their worth, youth that don't necessarily understand that they can go to college. What are you doing to bring in these youth, to help them understand that they are worthy of an education, that they can get an education? Yep. Because that, in turn, will increase enrollment. So what are you doing to increase enrollment other than marketing that's not working?
I have a Hispanic advisory board. I have asked every member of that Hispanic advisory board to serve as a...
I never said Hispanics, and quite frankly, I don't like that word.
That was what the board has been called since I arrived here. We also have an advisory board that reaches out to all students, and I've asked to attend, and I have attended many, many events, schools where I can talk to students and parents, and we will continue to do that, to reach out in a less formal setting than this so that potential students and their parents can understand what is involved in attending university. In fact, we're going to have a group brought on campus next week, and I'll be speaking to that group. It's a group of 8th graders, and those are the types of things that we do to try to get out to the community.
So how are you encouraging them to come to college? How are you letting them know that they are worthy of college? What are you doing? Are you implementing a student work program to create a mentorship program to tell these kids that they are worthy? What are you doing? You are not doing anything. You are talking to their parents and them, and they will sit there and it will go through one ear and out the other, and you know that.
No, I don't think it goes in one ear and out the other of those parents, and I'm sure those families would object to that characterization. And if you have any ideas that you'd like to forward to me...
I just suggested an idea to you.
Please go ahead and put it in writing and email it to me. I'd appreciate that.
I asked to meet with you a few days ago. I never got a phone call. I'll give you my name.
I'm going to take 2 more questions.
So earlier, somebody came up and asked a question about how if you have to plan budgets and submit them for ahead of time, how you didn't know that this crisis, or not crisis rather, but how you didn't know that these cuts would be coming, and why you didn't raise tuition. And you said that we couldn't account for variables. So what are the variables that makes this crisis so much larger than any that we've ever encountered before, to have to cut these many positions and leave the faculty shaking in their boots and you comfortably behind your podium?
We have worked with the faculty, staff, and students. There were deficits before. We have to downsize and try to make certain that these deficits don't continue to occur.
But what are the new variables that have caught that we won't be able in before nationally, as you keep saying? Nationally, America has gone through recessions, and they've come out of it. We're supposed to be coming out of another recession. So what makes these variables so much more drastic that you need to be cutting positions?
It's because the recession is...
But what makes it so much more drastic than any other recession that the nation has ever gone through?
I'm not sure...
What are the variables? What specifically are these variables that you didn't see?
I tried to explain that to you. The fact is, the recession is now coming to an end, and students do go back to work. That is a fact. And it is very difficult, and I'm sure we must have an economist in the room who can tell you how difficult it is to project a year or 2 or 3 ahead. Okay, could I have one more person, please?
Yeah, thanks for the condescending tone.
I'm also in the urban art music building too, and I guess I get kind of frustrated. Okay, I get kind of frustrated that here all these buildings are getting, the state-of-the-art buildings are getting done, and the music and art building can't even be taken care of. The leaks, the roofs leak, and you know the handicap accessible doors don't even work, and I have complained about that, and they still is an issue over that. And you know, and I may be a white girl, but my education matters too, and I want my education to be taken seriously, regardless of whether I'm a minority or not. I'm here to learn something, and why isn't someone in the high up administration, like the college president, some of the hires up not cutting down some of their salaries? You know, I've heard of other institutions that are having financial issues, taking a cut in their pay. I heard you make a pretty good salary.
That is true.
If you want to retain students, music and art department is important too, and our numbers are good.
All right.
So improve our building, because how can you retain a student if you got a crappy building that the roof leaks, and then the one building is so cold in the wintertime when the wind blows? Yeah, I have to wear a jacket. How is that going to retain a student?
Well, those are very good questions, and we'll work on getting the
How
music.
is getting rid of some of our best instructors going to retain students? Chancellor Martin, what if we don't want a CSU Pueblo branch in Denver? What if we would rather keep our faculty and staff? Is there any way we can do that instead? Because I'm sure all of us would be in agreement that we want our faculty and staff, not a CSU Pueblo.
Well, that's certainly a choice you can make. I think it'll cost the money to the institution, but that's a choice you can make. And certainly Fort Collins and others are more than happy to participate as well, including Arapahoe Community College, Aurora Community College. So our objective is to try to find new ways to use the wonderful faculty that's here if we can't keep enrollment up here at a level that sustains them. It's as simple as that. It's been done many times. Completely. I understand completely.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Okay. I have more of a relay question based on some information I read on the CSU Pueblo Community Rally page by Tim McGettigan. I have just learned that Chancellor Martin condescended to speak to a fellow Puebloan on the telephone today. Extraordinarily, in the context of the phone call, Chancellor Martin revealed the nature of the mysterious $3,173,602 expense that is recorded as a negative non-operating revenue in the CFO's 2014 budget projection for CSU Pueblo. Incredibly, Chancellor Martin divulged that he viewed his pet project, CSU Denver, as a satellite campus of CSU Pueblo. This is troubling because I think this may be the first time that Chancellor Martin has spoken to anyone south of Denver about this curious and undesirable connection between CSU Pueblo and CSU Denver. But here's the real problem. The $3,173,602 negative revenue in the 2014 budget projection actually represents a budgetary transfer from CSU Pueblo, which subsidizes CSU Denver. Yes, you read that correctly. Chancellor Martin is determined to force CSU Pueblo students to subsidize Martin's illegal, by the way, has Martin bothered to secure...
Excuse me, there was no such...
Let me finish my question. By the way, has Martin
Okay, thank you
my
so
question,
much. No,
my question...
Let me answer the question. Go ahead.
My question is going to be regarding the information that will be completed in a second. By the way, has Martin bothered to secure legislative authority to establish a new CSU campus? I think he may have sidestepped that annoying little legal nuisance. However, this is the best part. because Martin told his CFO to record the budget transfer as a non-operating revenue. Chancellor Martin can look people straight in the eye and without technically lying said that CSU Pueblo is going to be a recipient of all the revenues that come from CSU Denver. My question is, what do you have to say about that?
That's entirely fiction. It's an all fiction. You demonstrate that I had that call. Give me the recording. That would never occurred, and none of that is accurate. Someone has deeply misled you. So I would like to have whoever that is find that specific conversation. I had none today. I was down here today.
This was not a conversation today. The date of this post was, I believe, 2 days ago. There's a timestamp on here. It was January 13th at 8:48 p.m.
Produce that interview. Produce that interview.
How can I produce?
You're quoting something that's
private
completely fiction.
I am
it's
not
complete
the NSA.
fiction. I'm telling you that, and it's complete fiction.
Okay. Well, I have a second interjection question. Thank
you very much. The meeting has come to a close. And any other emails that you would like to send to me, please feel free to do so. And take a look at your fact sheets there. Thank you.